the topic that actually came to mind a couple of days ago, which I've shared with some of you, and which is unusual that I actually got a topic in advance, is when our role models are sick, healthy behavior looks wrong.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
And I don't know, I didn't get anything but the title. I don't know what I'm going to say about the topic. But I was thinking about how does that connect to I'm really happy. And, I don't, how many of you had parents who were role models of being oppressed? Pretty common. So there it is. I mean, right there. In order for you to be a true adult in the world, you really have to be oppressed. Or at least inform everybody.
Or act like.
Or act like you are. I got it was in our family, two things. You're giving your mother a migraine, which was easy because she had them frequently. She was a nervous wreck. And of course I have them too now, but I can't blame my mother for them. You're giving your mother, and the other is you're putting your mother in her grave. And as all of you know, or many of you know, my mother is 99.
Just can't get her there.
And she lives, and God bless her, I don't know why, I'm taking her inventory, and this is the wrong thing to do, but I just feel inspired to share this with you, because it's when our role models, My mother lives in this gorgeous residence, in this beautiful apartment. They have great food, for those kind of things, and she's loved by people. She is old. Of course she's in pain, right? She's 99, She has no major illnesses, which makes her very unhappy because there is no exit. She can't even imagine how she's ever going to die, and neither can we. But it is only very recently that I've heard her say that things are good. Now, this is what she would say. Now, my mother has been in a residence for many years now, maybe 9 years. Since she came out to California, she originally lived with me, and then she moved into a residence because I'm so oppressed I can't take care of anybody. And so she would say, every time I saw her, the food is going from bad to worse. Every single time I went to see her. I mean, if over 9 years the food is going from bad to worse, she must be, living on a garbage dump at this point. And I never really thought about this before this minute, that this was my role model, of being a constant complainer. And my mother was, she's got wonderful quality. She's very smart. She was very hardworking. She still is a perfectionist. You go into her apartment and there isn't a thing out of place yet at 99. I mean, everything has to be immaculate. It was a terror to live with her. And because, if things were out of place, she would get a migraine or she'd be in her grave. So, there was some kind of pressure involved in that. But I think that, I saw that kind of emotional distress. And I'm not saying she didn't have real distress, but everybody in this room has real distress, right? But competing to who is the most distressed, and therefore who should be taken care of the most, is kind of a sick role model, isn't it? Now, I know that there are some people who have the opposite role models. Okay, how many of you had as role models at least one parent who always looked like they had everything together and nothing was ever wrong and they were just totally happy? Okay, we have a couple of those too. Now, is that any better? That means they're never real. They don't tell you what they're really feeling, but you feel it. So you're walking around feeling like you're an insane person because the person is generating an energy which you're picking up on the unconscious level while they're pretending that everything is okay. And they're modeling for you that you should never acknowledge that anything is wrong. You feel embarrassed if you're in pain or you don't know how to handle something. And I'm sure there's a list that goes along with having that kind of a parent. But it's not just our parents. And it's, you know, we're role modeled. When I grew up, I was born in 1945 at the end of World War II, and I grew up, you know, at the end of the 40s and in the 50s, the early 50s, and it was Doris Day. And honestly, I don't look like Doris Day. When I was 16 years old, my mother and father, who were dirt poor, took me to the beauty parlor to have my hair straightened. And I had a flip. Seriously.
No, I remember that.
I mean, this is my hair. This is the way it grows. You see what I mean? Okay, turn that into a flip. So, and here's the irony. It flipped for one day. The next day, it was a frizz flip. In other words, it was straightened but frizzy. It had no curl anymore. It was just frizzy. And you know, they also offered me a nose job at the time. But somehow I knew that I would never be Doris Day. And I said no. But it's not only that. I didn't want to be Doris Day. Did I want to look at every man and say, oh, you're slow. You know, and remember in those days, there were no women senators or, I mean, you know, governors or anything. You know, women were really subordinate, and that was the role. I didn't want to be that way. I put on boots. I got a pair of boots. Of course, they were snow boots because I lived in New York. But they weren't trendy boots, but that was the best that I could do. And I tried to walk around like I was a man because I was so disgusted by the role that women were expected to play in the 1950s. I didn't want it. And there was something wrong with me. I'm sure all of you can think of ways in which life was modeled for you that just didn't work. Like you were a very athletic woman. Well, that was wrong. I remember the prejudice when I was in grammar school, elementary school. I don't know what they call them today. Anyway, whatever, young. And there was the physical education teachers were all considered to be lesbians. I mean, that was obviously the only kind of women who would ever consider doing physical education were lesbians. Not that there's anything wrong with being a lesbian, I'm not saying that. But I'm talking about that was the thinking of the time. I don't have to tell you what men were supposed to be like. Marlboro Man.
John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Rock Hudson.
And supposing that isn't who you were. Maybe you're 5'2". You know? Maybe you were artistic. Maybe you were sensitive. Maybe you were actually human. Maybe you were scared. Maybe you didn't want to go to war. Maybe you didn't want to fight. Maybe you wanted to cry. You know, this makes me sad. Roz was on our radio show, Inside Out, last week, and we were talking about black and white and blue all over. And it was really about being stuck in roles. She was talking about being black, and I talked about being, you know, being white, and being stuck in a stereotype of how I had to be.
And raised Jewish.
And raised Jewish. I had to be intellectual. I had to be out of my body. You know what I mean? And I had to not dance. And there was nothing sexual. Don't ask. There's a new noise in the plumbing, huh?
Water is running so much.
Okay. Do you think it's being recorded, or shall we? It's okay. Okay, great. Okay, forget all that. So there was a noise. There's a ghost in the house now. Anyway, being white at that time meant that the closest you ever got to sex was Elvis Presley.
You watching him shake his pelvis on
Yes,
TV.
that was like it. And it's still happening today. It's not just in the dark ages that we have role models that are sick. The role model of the businesswoman. What is the role model of the businesswoman? For so many women, it is a woman who's as ruthless as men. That's the role model. And then there's the mother who's supposed to be forever loving and nurturing, never has a cross moment, is never tired, and is always available. And if your mother doesn't fit that category, she was bad. And if you didn't fit that category, you were bad. I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad mother. I want to kill my child. I am a bad mother. Nobody said you're a normal mother if you want to kill your child. If you don't want to kill your child, you're a sick mother. You know, you're just suppressing certain feelings, you know. It's like that. Oh, and religious people in many traditions are supposed to be above sex. We know this, don't we? I mean, that's why we have fundamentalist ministers who have been charged with child abuse, priests who have been charged with child abuse, rabbis who have been charged with child abuse, and recently there is an Indian guru who has spoken vociferously against sex, who has been charged with rape of a 15-year-old. We don't know if that's true or not, but why not? Because they're in a role that they're trying to match. You know, why? Why? Because Jesus was celibate? We don't even know if Jesus was celibate. We don't even know if Jesus was, much less whether or not he was celibate. Doubtful. Because he didn't know yet that he was Christian. So he didn't have to live up to those, you know, oppressive standards. I mean, why don't we take a moment just to think about the roles that we play and what we think we have to be. The teacher role. The sick person role. The crazy person role. The Latina role. The Jewish role. The comedian role. The empathetic therapist role. The tough mama role. The sensitive, delicate male role. The artistic role. The most oppressed role.
How about the father who knows best?
The father who knows best role. The fighter role. Standing up to injustice. The placater pleaser role. The American role. The Japanese role. The Russian role.
Hero.
The hero.
The seducer.
The seducer.
The doctor.
The doctor. the I don't give a damn role. Think about it, and think about the many ways that you are modeling yourself after a role. The I don't want to be pigeonholed role. I'm free. I'm a free spirit role. We live in a sick world. We really do. Does anybody doubt that? Someone was sharing with me this morning, I won't mention her name, that most people in her experience feel, it's Christine. Would you like to share? Would you like to share this? Well, I can't be the misquoted role.
No, she just, when people feel negatively toward Beth, she's very sensitive to it. And so it's in her consciousness a lot. She can tell when people are feeling negatively toward her. I said, well, really, people feel negatively toward everybody, like frequently. It's just that you're so sensitive to it. So that happens a lot.
And I was stunned.
She was stunned, like this was news to her.
Because when I get up, in the morning, and I'm feeling negative about everything, I'll spend the whole day calling people saying, I'm so negative. What's wrong? I'm so negative. I feel so negative. In fact, I had these two and James on the phone and in person for hours the other day. I was so upset by the fact that I felt negative towards myself, towards life, towards everybody. I just wanted, and I hated that. So when Christine said that most people feel negative towards other people all the time, I was stunned, because I think there's something wrong. Because see, that's not my role model. Now, my mother was critical of everybody all the time. So that should have been my role model. It's like when we're in that place, something is wrong. What a concept. I don't mean that we should never feel negative about anything. Of course, that's totally anathema to what I'm saying. We have to be real. But to think that is a state of mind of thinking negatively about everybody, I mean, Jesus, you would be in the I am alone, what a horrible world this is role. Anybody here identify with the I am alone and what a horrible world this is role?
I did.
Surrounded by enemies every moment, on guard against the next attack. I mean, can you imagine what would happen if we lived in a country that was true? You know what I mean? Like if there was war going on or sectarian violence, where on top of everything else you had that. And I'm not trying to say that there isn't a lot of violence, and that right here in River City, in our own country, in our own communities, in our own homes. So there's some reason that we get into that way of thinking. It's not like we're completely crazy that we think that way, but it's just not reality. We have had an experience, and then we carry that experience forward, and we think that's the way it is. And we have role models that teach us to think that way. Or we're so angry at the role models that are in denial that we go into the other extreme and we're on the pendulum. Because, everybody, when you have parents who keep pretending everything is okay, you're going to be making it your profession to point out what's wrong. We live in a very sick world. All you have to do is read the news. And yet, the way we are in the world, we can go, so-and-so is really sick. But the fundamental structures of the way that our world is put together, the way we think, the way we are, the way we all react is the same. And that tells us that if we see all these sick people out there, we are looking in the mirror. because we have not broken out of the ways of thinking, the ways of feeling, the ways of being that have given rise to all that sickness. And I'm saying today that here's a step we can start taking right now to change that. Just this simple step of looking at how we are caricatures of ourselves. That's what we did in our Life Force this morning. I hope that everybody goes to lifeforceworkout.com for our free Life Force for, well, it will have been for September, where we all really showed how we feel that everything is so bad for us. And hey, it's, not to say that, that there aren't problems, but that is the model that we have in ourselves of what life is and who we are in it. The most oppressed, the most put upon, the most heroic, the most whatever role we are playing, can we just pick one and say, break it, stop, notice when you're getting into it. Pretend that the world is different for 10 minutes and find out that it is. Give yourself the freedom to get out of the box. On our radio program Inside Out, I Am Real. So far, it's been difficult to get the guests to go to that point of being that real and that self-disclosing. But I am real because I want to create a role model that it's okay to be real. And because I can't stand being any other way. And I'm getting more real every day because I'm looking at all the subtle ways in which I have trapped myself that I never even noticed before. Throw off the shackles of our own identity. Who am I? Nothing. Nobody. What freedom? I did a video a couple of years ago called Becoming Nothing. It was one of the least popular videos I've ever done. We all feel, and this is so important, that in order for us to get our needs met, we have to play out some role that's going to give us some edge, that's going to give us the right to have resources in our world, whether it's because we're the most charming, the most hardworking, the most depressed, the most needy, the most enlightened, whatever it is. And we take it on. It's not just male, female, it's all these other roles that we take on for ourselves. The most forgiving. The most gentle. The most angry. And whatever role we took on from very young ages is the role that we are most stuck in. The most considerate, the most wise. And we try to get our needs met from that basis. And how can we give up those roles if we don't even envision that there is a world where we can just be and just go about our business and be real? And if we're hungry, we can go to the supermarket. We're not infants anymore that need our parents to bring us breakfast unless we happen to be crippled. And then we're still stuck to a degree. If we're lucky, we can pay somebody. We're not stuck anymore in these roles that we adopted, that our egos adopted, that gave us shape. And we're so scared that our survival is at stake because that's what we felt. You know, if mommy or the nanny or daddy or the cousin or my older brother or sister does not bring me what I need, I will die. But that's not true anymore. Yet we're still there. Yes, we are living in a sick world, and it's not just them. It's these patterns of thinking and feeling that we all still have inside us. Nations, sects, groups, religious groups who are still proving something about themselves and each other and using that as a justification to slaughter other people, that they were the most oppressed. Oh yeah, we have been colonized, and therefore you guys killed our prophet 400 years ago, and therefore I. Whatever. You know, it's the same old thing, isn't it? It's the collective consciousness is no different from our own individual consciousness when we see it in black and white or in another nation or in another way. We look at those people and say, what is wrong with those people? But we don't even see it in ourselves. When our role models are sick, healthy behavior seems wrong. You are not allowed to break out of that way of being. You are betraying women. You're betraying blacks. You're betraying Jews. You're betraying whites. You're betraying something, somebody. Because you don't want to be constricted by these roles. You're betraying your mother. Let's drop it. Let's take a risk to be well. See what feeds us and do it. Thank you.